Let's start with the obvious. I'm a black man from Liberty City, but there's 1.8 million black people who would get excited about that, and we've seen them get excited for every time that they've run, we've had a success. When Gillum ran, we had Nikki Free to get elected. And we had a similar situation, with the exception, I would say, of Val Demings. And so I knew that I could stimulate that vote, but that's not enough to win. We basically presented to the AFL-CIO our position on labor, because my thoughts were very simple. The house that I was raised in about 10 miles from here was run by a union father. I remember as a 4.5-year-old leaving the apartment, I got my mom's leg, my two older brothers are running around. She's got my youngest brother in her shoulder, on her hip, and we're now packing up to move to Liberty City. I remember that union job took us from there into the middle class. And so now we have poor people who can't pay taxes, they don't have the money. We have rich people who don't pay taxes because they have lawyers and accountants. And so now that working class is who is carrying the burden. So the Biden administration said, we'll do taxes, but we're not gonna touch a tax for anybody who makes under $400,000, and I agree with that. I also agree that the Trump tax cuts, which will generate $4.2 trillion over the next 10 years, should be put into programs, and I have programs. And I'll give you a little bit of an idea. So my programs associated with insurance cannot be fixed in Tallahassee, because no matter what, you're Republican or Democrat, this is a weather tax. It is the climate that is causing us to have the highest insurance rates in the country. And we can't move the state someplace else. So that is something that we have to fix in Washington. And my plan is to move insurance into what we call the National Critical Infrastructure Protection Program. And everybody's gonna go home and look that up, but I'm gonna tell you there are 14 elements in the National Critical Infrastructure. I'll give you one. Lights. If the lights go out in a catastrophic means, then the federal government will come in and the federal government becomes the first payer. Intelligence, which is where I learned what it was, and I did things like the TSA passenger screening system and the like. But if we put insurance into the National Critical Infrastructure, that means that when a hurricane hits our western shore, it could very well miss and hit Alabama, or Mississippi, or Louisiana, or Texas. The last hurricane just went straight to Texas. So we have a shared responsibility. And it's that shared responsibility that means that instead of us putting money in to get your $10,000 to help you fix your house back up, and that's not enough, or it's not sufficient if you got flooded, then we might as well just put it to the federal government and then have them then be the first payer. If we do that, because we have the highest insurance rates, our rates will drop by 30%. California would also see about 30% drop. Texas about 29%, Mississippi about 22%, and so on and so on. Because we don't put the same amount in if our risk is identified as lower.